Okay, here is our second lesson on sketching quadratic graphs. Okay. Now, there are various different ways to sketch quadratics. The last lesson we looked at was finding a set of coordinate points and then joining them up. Okay. In your exam, okay, whatever form that may take, you are unlikely to be asked to solve the question in that way. You are more likely to be given a set of key points that are to be on your diagram, and after that, it doesn't really matter. Okay. More about sketching, so we're not worrying about the squares in our jotter, keeping tidy to them. It is really just a case of making sure your graph looks neat and has the right information written on it. Okay, so what we're going to look at here is the function y equals x squared plus 4x minus 5. Okay, and what we're going to aim to do on our graph is to show the roots and the turning point. Okay, turning point, usually just referred to as TP. Okay, so in maths, if you see TP, that just means turning point. Okay, and if you think about the shape of these graphs, they come down, they turn and go back up. So that point right at the bottom there, that is our turning point. Similarly, it could be at the top instead. Okay, if it's one of these upside down U shapes. Okay, so what we're told here is the roots and the turning point. That's what we want to make sure it is on our graph. Okay, the roots, I'll show you what they look like in just a wee second. But in order to find these roots, the first thing we have to do is take this and put it into a double bracket. Okay, so for this one, we're thinking to ourselves, right, what multiplies to -5 but adds to make 4? And in this case, that is going to be x plus 5 and x minus 1. Okay, so the final step to find out what these roots are is we are going to take each of these brackets, we're going to split them apart, and we're going to say, well, for each of these to be equal to 0, x has to be -5 for that first one. X plus 5 equals 0, so x must be -5. And for the second one, we're saying that x minus 1 equals 0, so x must be 1. Okay, so we're just saying, what does x have to be for this whole thing t equals 0? Usually, that just means looking at the number and changing it to a negative or a positive, but sometimes a wee bit more involved. So setting it up equal to 0 and then solving the equation will always keep you right. Now, these values here are what we call the roots. And what we mean by that is that these are the two x coordinates where our parabola is going to cut through our x-axis. Okay, so it's going to come down through the x-axis, it's going to turn, and it's going to cut through on the way back up as well, and it's going to be at these 2 points that happens. Okay, the other little bit of information we need is the turning point. So our starting point for that is to find the middle of the roots. Okay, the turning point is always exactly halfway between where the two roots are. So what we're going to do as a wee trick, if you're not sure, is we're going to take our two roots, add them, and then divide by 2. So in this case, -5 plus 1 is 4, divide by 2 is -2. Okay, so that is our x value for our turning point. What we're going to do now, same as we did yesterday, x equals -2, so y equals -2 squared plus 4 times -2 minus 5, just taking our original equation there, putting -2 in. 4 minus 8 minus 5, 4 take away 8 is -4, minus 5 is -9. So our turning point, bear in mind that's our y value, is at -2, -9. Okay, so as you can see here, okay, we've not had to figure out every single individual point. Okay, we've just figured out, right, these two values where it cuts through the x-axis, and this value here where the graph turns. Okay, and all we need to do now is sketch out a set of axes. Okay, we want to make sure we've got space to draw on them. Our x, our y, and we don't need every point on. It doesn't need to be accurate, it just needs to look roughly right. There's my -5, there's my 1, so that's my two roots. My turning point, -2, 9, let's extend that down a bit and say that that's going to be about there. Okay, does not have to be measured, okay? Bear in mind when you do your assessment, it's going to be on blank paper, not squared, so don't worry about sticking to the squares in your jotter. And all we're going to do now is bring our parabola down through that point and then back up through that one, okay? And what you can see there, as long as we have 1, 2, 3 points marked on our graph, that's all we need, okay? So we don't need every single one we worked out, it's just the 2 roots, the turning point, and that is enough to draw our graph, okay? Easy as that. And bear in mind, if your turning point ends up being above, that just means you're going to be having one of these ones instead. Nice and simple, nice and easy. Take it nice and slow once again, draw these properly, and let me know if you need a hand.